Currently, businesses and government entities are responsible for the reclamation of land which has been destroyed by natural disaster or business ventures. The businesses that are contracting out the reclamation of the land are forced through multiple loopholes of contracting out portions of the end result, then getting them together to achieve the final result. Most of these large businesses and government entities resort to using one of a mirage of options to reclaim the damaged property. Of these options, hay blasting is the most commonly used option to help stimulate seed germination and protect the uppermost layers of the soil. Hay blasting is an inefficient means of land reclamation because of the lack of stability in the situations where the elements may be in effect. For example, rain washing away the hay or wind blowing away the hay. Although initially the cheapest of the readily available options to promote the health of the land, hay blasting generally adds up to be incredibly more expensive after multiple applications. A newly discovered outlet used to reclaim land is hydroseeding. Hydroseeding is a process of combining mulch, seed, and other minor elements in order to spray the seed, hold the seed, and allow for growth. Hydroseeding is often neglected because of the appearance of a large price difference between hay blasting and hydroseeding. Major businesses and government officials have neglected to investigate hydroseeding because of the price as well as the tedious process of contracting out the process. In order to apply the hydroseed, the corporations must find the product, contract out a hydroseeder, and then oversee the application, thus having to bring together 2 to 3 separate organizations in order to achieve one end goal. The corporation is then responsible for the reporting of the reclamation by a government entity. In addition to the tedious process, the hydroseeding process requires multiple fields, thus adding a cost to the end product. The product has an initial tax, the hydroseeder has an additional tax, then the application and certification adds yet another tax to the already expensive process. Between the amount of work and price differences, it's no wonder why the overwhelming majority of the major corporations resort to the use of hay blasting. The proposed business would provide quality solutions to lacking fields of land growth and recovery after the destruction of the land. The solution provided would be the sale of production, distribution, and application as a complete process sold as one product. The major product market would include large oil corporations residing especially in the North Dakota region, government entities recovering from natural disasters, especially within Colorado, Arizona, California, and Idaho regions, construction businesses with needs to plant seed, and insurance companies that would enable us to partner with the private sector. This would be a business that would assemble the product applicator, and application process within one entity in order to cut costs to the businesses that are using the product, while at the same time allowing a larger cash flow for the business by directing all sales from the multiple-pronged process to one business. The majority of sales would take place in Colorado, North Dakota, Idaho, California, and Arizona, with supplementary sales throughout surrounding regions. Sales would take place throughout the year, but largely in the early fall months. The application process would likely begin in the later fall months, allowing for adequate germination. Sales would be likely to continue throughout the year as well. Sales would be carried out either website, via phone call, or in person at the site. The application would be carried out by the crews as employed by the business using company hydroseeders and product. The business would appeal to so many companies and private farms throughout the country and eventually the world that the business would ultimately become more convenient by achieving franchise status. The business would then be able to set up accessible central locations in the most heavily sold areas and would have quicker turnaround times for time of sale to time of application. These franchise locations would all contain crews, the portable hydroseeders, and product for application that would be readily applicable whenever needed. There is a high mass consumer need for the hydroseed product and application. There is a further need for the product and application to become one entity. With recent floods, fires, other natural disasters, and an oil boom in the northern states as well as parts of the Midwest, there is a tremendous need for land reclamation and health. As regulated by federal, state, and county governments, the composition of well-being of the land must be maintained to a standard set by multiple aspects of the land under ideal circumstances. After a natural disaster or the use of the land by a business, the land is compromised, thus creating a need for an entity to come in and nurse the land back to health. And recognizing that there will always be a need for reclamation of land post-disaster, there will always be a business in providing the means of reclaiming the land. There is extreme fiscal soundness in appealing to that front of sale. In addition, the need for oil and mining remains a constant with an unforeseen halt. There will be a day when these resources will no longer be available, but as the supply of these resources decreases, the value of these resources greatly increases. Along with the increase of value, there is an ever-increasing amount of cash flow in the industry, thus allowing for a larger pay to all involved entities. The Federal Bureau of Reclamation is an influential force in the management of product composition and the result of product application. Multiple agents are responsible for monitoring the recovery of the land post-disaster or destruction. As a result of being a federally mandated operation, there will always be a need for this field of business. There will always be natural disasters and destruction of land, intentional or not, thus allowing the businesses to always be a necessity though possibly facing some acclimations to changing times, consumer needs, and/or changing of public policy. The finished product we would be selling to customers would be the complete combination of the hydroseed product, the application of the product, and the review of the product application by a certified government agency. There would be opportunities to sell separate tiers of the operation on their own, but would have a general tendency to specifically sell the entire process from beginning to end. Prices would range depending on what the land was recovering from, the size of the plot of the land to be recovered, as well as the distance to the land to be recovered. The product would be priced per acre of recovery, including the price of application and product. The quotes as listed would be subject to change due to more dramatic land devastation and distances from the central location ranging upwards of 100 miles. These prices were calculated by determining the price of the product alone, the price of the hydroseeder alone, and the prices on average of the service of both in the market today. Until a franchise could be established, the business would operate at a central location selling to locations around the country. The central location would likely be closest in centrality to all locations generating the most revenue. This would likely be located in Wyoming territory because of the advantage of larger subsidies to businesses aiming toward environmental recovery and sustainability. There are also lower business income taxes in places in regions of Wyoming than in Colorado territories. The business would then have crews that would be able to travel to the locations with the hydroseeder and product in order to apply wherever orders are coming from. Once a franchise could be established, there would be an opportunity to cut large costs to businesses and consumers with the advantage of not having to waste long hours of travel and allowing for more sales within a smaller period of time. From personal sales, word of mouth, trade shows, and recommendation by a government agency, this business would be sellable from nearly every angle. The initial sales would be generated by prospecting customers, pursuing the customer, then closing the sale. This would be a labor-intensive process, but necessary to initiate cash flow in the business. After the business becomes a certified business by insurance and government entities, the business would begin to sell itself. Government websites would list the business along with the push by insurance agencies after a natural disaster for use on private and public land. The business would have a website where potential customers could go to find out more information about the hydroseed industry, and the process taken by the business then would be able to register the land in order to fill a full review of the land to be made and a quote established. The landowner could then purchase and process and begin the steps to application. Potentially, as time progresses and hydroseeding becomes a more recognizable mean of reclamation, the patented product, as maintained by the business, would become available in stores such as Home Depot, Lowe's, etc. Then a new mean of promotion would be approached. The business would ultimately be a breakthrough in the hydroseeding technological field, allowing for an efficient outlet of environmental sustainability and recovery. The process as offered by the business would free up multitudes of time that is currently being spent by large corporations contracting out 3 or 4 separate tiers of a single goal process, which is to reclaim the land. The business would allow these corporations to register the land needing recovery, then contract out the process to one business, our business. Within the business, there would be a patented product, application process, and available service to certify the reclamation of the land by a government agency. The business would be completely unprecedented by any company before and would set a new standard in the world of land reclamation and environmental sustainability.